Welcome, dear viewers, to a world where darkness and mysticism meet in the creepiest forms. Here, in this abandoned corner of the internet, we will delve into the darkest corners of the human imagination. Prepare for awe-inspiring horror, as each of our stories is imbued with sinister secrets that lurk in the darkness of the night. Scary stories that remain beyond your imagination are waiting for you on our channel. Don't forget to turn on the lights, get comfortable, and hold on tight, because now we are going into the world of nightmares. Are you ready for it? Then welcome to our scary story.
The small provincial town of Ravenswood had always been known for its tranquility and picturesque charm. It was the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen, and that was precisely why Mark chose it as his new home. He had recently moved from another state, seeking a fresh start after a series of unsettling events in his past. Little did he know that his arrival in Ravenswood would be anything but ordinary. Mark's first day at Ravenswood High School was a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He had transferred mid-semester, which meant he was the new kid in class. As he stepped off the bus, he couldn't help but feel the eyes of his classmates on him. Whispers and hushed conversations filled the air as he walked towards the school building, his backpack slung over his shoulder. Inside the school, Mark received a lukewarm welcome from the receptionist, who handed him his schedule and directed him to his first class. Navigating the unfamiliar hallways, he couldn't help but notice the vibrant and cheerful atmosphere that seemed to envelop the students. Everyone seemed so friendly and approachable, except for one person. As Mark entered his first class, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. The classroom fell silent as he took his seat at the back, and all eyes turned towards him. But what caught his attention the most was the mysterious figure sitting in the far corner of the room near the window. It was the new student. The newcomer was unlike anyone Mark had ever seen. His jet black hair fell in disarray over his pale forehead, and his clothes were always dark, as if he were perpetually mourning. Mark could never recall seeing him smile, and his eyes were shrouded in an enigmatic air. They were a striking shade of crimson, which seemed unnatural for a teenager. During the first week of school, Mark tried to strike up a conversation with the new student, but it proved futile. The boy rarely spoke, and when he did, it was in a soft, almost inaudible whisper. Mark learned his name was Adrian, but that was the extent of their interaction. What was even stranger was Adrian's behavior during gym class. While all the other students reluctantly changed into their gym uniforms and headed to the sports field, Adrian was conspicuously absent. When Mark asked his classmates about it, they exchanged knowing glances and told him not to worry. "Adrian never participates in gym class," they said. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about Adrian. It was as if he were hiding a secret, one that he was determined to protect at all costs. As days turned into weeks, Mark observed more peculiar things about the new student. Adrian never seemed to eat anything during lunchtime, and he always seemed to disappear right before the school bell rang, leaving Mark to wonder where he went. One sunny afternoon, Mark decided to follow Adrian after school. He had to know what this mysterious boy was up to. As he discreetly trailed him through the winding streets of Ravenswood, he noticed something that sent shivers down his spine. Adrian's shadow was unnaturally dark and elongated, like a sinister silhouette against the fading light of day. Mark's heart raced as he watched Adrian enter an old, decrepit mansion on the outskirts of town. The mansion had always been the subject of local legends, rumored to be haunted by ghosts and other supernatural entities. Mark hesitated for a moment, but ultimately summoned the courage to approach the mansion. Peering through a broken window, Mark saw something that made his blood run cold. Adrian stood in the center of a dimly lit room, his eyes glowing with an eerie intensity. In his hand, he held a small, silver crucifix, but instead of recoiling in fear, Adrian seemed to be studying it intently. Mark couldn't believe his eyes. What kind of person was Adrian? What was he doing in that haunted mansion, and why did he seem so fixated on the crucifix? The answers to these questions remained elusive, and Mark knew that he had stumbled upon a mystery far darker than he could have ever imagined. Little did he know that his pursuit of the truth would lead him down a perilous path, one filled with secrets, danger and the realization that some legends were not merely stories to scare children, but ominous warnings of the darkness that lurked within the shadows of Ravenswood. As the days went by in Ravenswood, the sense of unease continued to grow. The once tranquil town was now gripped by an unsettling undercurrent. Strange disappearances had started plaguing the community, shattering the peaceful facade. The whispers of missing persons grew louder, and fear hung in the air like a heavy fog. The first victim of this enigmatic phenomenon was a fellow student of Mark's, Jacob, a friendly and jovial classmate. Jacob had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void that sent shockwaves through the school. The abruptness of his disappearance sent shivers down everyone's spine, raising more questions than answers. Mark felt a sudden surge of determination. He could no longer stand idly by while the town succumbed to this mysterious threat. Armed with his growing suspicion of Adrian's involvement, he decided to delve deeper into the unsettling connection between the new student and the inexplicable disappearances. Late one evening, Mark sat in his dimly lit room, poring over every piece of information he could find about Adrian. The more he uncovered, the more his suspicions were confirmed. Adrian had an unusual history, marked by unexplainable occurrences and a string of inexplicable events wherever he went. His research led him to a peculiar incident that had taken place in Adrian's previous town, a small community now plagued by stories of people disappearing under eerie circumstances. Similar to the current situation in Ravenswood, these vanishings were attributed to a mysterious, malevolent force. Mark's heart sank as he connected the dots, realizing that Adrian was the common denominator in both cases. A legend tied to the disappearance of people in Adrian's previous town surfaced during Mark's investigation. It spoke of a malevolent entity that fed on the life force of unsuspecting victims, leaving behind a trail of darkness and sorrow. This entity was believed to be a vampire, one that Adrian seemed to embody. Mark felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the true nature of the new student. Adrian was a vampire, and his arrival in Ravenswood had brought a sinister shadow over the town. It was a horrifying revelation that made Mark's blood run cold. Driven by a sense of duty to protect his community, and haunted by the memories of Jacob and others who had vanished, Mark decided to confront Adrian. He needed to expose the truth and put an end to this reign of terror. The moon hung high in the sky as Mark approached the ominous mansion, a sinking feeling in his gut. The air was heavy with the stench of fear and foreboding. With each step towards the mansion, the weight of the situation bore down on him, making him question his decision. He found Adrian standing in the moonlit courtyard, an ethereal figure blending seamlessly with the shadows. Adrian turned to face him, his crimson eyes gleaming with a mixture of hunger and malevolence. Mark's voice shook, but his resolve remained firm as he demanded answers. "You're the cause of all this, aren't you?" Mark's voice was unwavering, a beacon of defiance in the dark. Adrian let out a chilling chuckle, confirming Mark's suspicions. "You're quite perceptive, Mark. Yes, I am what you fear, a creature that exists in the shadows." Mark's heart pounded, but he refused to back down. "Why? Why bring this darkness to Ravenswood?" "Power, young one. Power and sustenance," Adrian hissed. "I feed on the life force of humans, and this town is a fertile ground." Mark's mind raced, desperately seeking a way to confront this creature of the night. He knew he had to act swiftly to save his community from Adrian's insidious grasp. As the confrontation intensified, the battle between darkness and light unfurled in the moonlit courtyard. Mark was determined to banish the vampire from Ravenswood, but he was up against a formidable opponent. The fate of the town hung in the balance as they clashed in a struggle that would determine the course of their intertwined destinies. Little did they know that their confrontation was only the beginning, and the true horror that awaited them was far more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The shadows whispered of darker secrets, and the night held more mysteries than they had ever anticipated. The battle for Ravenswood had just begun. The realization that Adrian was a true vampire hit Mark like a bolt of lightning, electrifying his senses and propelling him into action. He knew he had to gather evidence and confront the malevolent creature that threatened his town. Armed with the grim truth, he set out to expose Adrian, undeterred by the doubt and skepticism of those around him. Mark's first step was to compile concrete evidence of Adrian's dark nature. He spent countless hours digging into the past, unearthing tales of strange occurrences and linking them to Adrian's presence. He gathered testimonies from witnesses who had noticed Adrian's unusual behavior, the telltale signs of a vampire. His pursuit of the truth led him to ancient texts and folklore, delving into the realm of vampires, their weaknesses, and the ways to combat them. Mark studied the lore, learning about the significance of holy symbols and the importance of sunlight in repelling these creatures of the night. With a newfound sense of purpose, he approached Father Gregory, the town's wise and knowledgeable priest. Father Gregory had been a source of wisdom and guidance for the community for many years. Mark confided in him, sharing his discoveries and the harrowing truth about Adrian. The priest listened intently, his expression a mixture of concern and disbelief. Mark presented the evidence he had gathered, imploring Father Gregory to help him expose the vampire. After careful consideration, the priest agreed to stand by Mark and support his endeavor to protect Ravenswood. Together, they formed a plan to rid the town of this vile presence. Armed with holy water, crosses, and ancient texts, they prepared for the final confrontation. Mark's determination and the support of the priest bolstered his confidence, filling him with a sense of purpose. The night of the final battle approached, and the tension in Ravenswood was palpable. Rumors had spread, and fear had taken root in the hearts of the townspeople. Mark knew that the time had come to face Adrian and put an end to the reign of terror. As the moon hung high and the night sky darkened, Mark and Father Gregory stood at the gates of the mansion. The air was thick with anticipation as they ventured into the heart of darkness. They had to navigate through the labyrinthine halls, their every step echoing in the eerie silence. In the dimly lit chamber, they found Adrian, surrounded by an aura of malevolence. Mark's heart pounded as he stepped forward, holding a cross firmly in his hand. "It ends here, Adrian. Your reign of terror stops now." Adrian sneered, revealing his fangs in a chilling display of menace. "You underestimate me, human. You cannot comprehend the power I possess." With a swift movement, the confrontation escalated. Mark and Father Gregory engaged Adrian, invoking holy chants and unleashing the power of their faith. The battle was fierce, each side fighting with unmatched determination. The room was a battleground, the struggle between good and evil manifesting in every clash. As the first rays of dawn approached, a piercing scream echoed through the mansion. The sunlight began to seep through the windows, causing Adrian to recoil in agony. The vampire's strength waned as he struggled against the relentless light, his form disintegrating into ashes. Mark and Father Gregory watched as Adrian met his fate, the sunlight purging the darkness from Ravenswood. The battle was won, and the town was finally free from the clutches of the vampire. However, the victory came at a great cost. The town would forever bear the scars of this harrowing experience. Mark knew that the memory of that fateful night would linger, a reminder of the horrors they had faced and the courage it took to confront the darkness. As the sun rose, illuminating the once ominous mansion, hope began to blossom anew in Ravenswood. Mark had faced the unspeakable and emerged stronger. He had learned that even in the face of fear, with determination and the support of others, one could stand against the darkness and emerge victorious. But in the depths of the shadows, other evils watched and waited, and the battle for Ravenswood had only just begun. The war against the unknown continued, and Mark would remain vigilant, ready to protect his town from whatever horrors lurked in the darkness. The abandoned building stood as a decrepit monument to fear and despair, its walls echoing with the tortured whispers of the past. This was the battlefield, where the final confrontation between the forces of light and the engulfing darkness would unfold. Mark, armed with his unwavering resolve, stood alongside his allies, ready to face Adrian, the vampire who had terrorized their town. The stale air was charged with tension as they ventured further into the forsaken structure. The old hallways seemed to close in on them, and every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down their spines. They knew they were being watched, and the anticipation of the impending battle weighed heavily on their shoulders. In the heart of the building, the clash began. Adrian emerged from the shadows, his crimson eyes ablaze with fury. Mark raised his cross, and Father Gregory chanted ancient hymns, invoking the power of the divine to aid their cause. The battle was fierce, the combatants locked in a deadly dance of survival. The room became a whirlwind of movement and power, with Adrian displaying unmatched strength and agility. He moved with a predatory grace, his fangs bared, ready to claim his next victim. But Mark and his allies fought with unyielding determination, fueled by the desire to save their town from the clutches of evil. Sweat poured down Mark's brow as he grappled with Adrian, each blow intensifying his conviction. He could feel the weight of the battle in his bones, a reminder of the lives at stake. Father Gregory, too, stood strong, channeling his faith into a potent force against the darkness. The battle reached its peak, the fate of Ravenswood hanging in the balance. Mark felt a surge of strength within him, bolstered by the courage of his allies and the resilience of his town. With a final, desperate push, they managed to overpower Adrian, exposing him to the rays of the rising sun that streamed through the broken windows. Adrian shrieked in agony as the sunlight seared his vampiric flesh. The light disintegrated him, reducing him to ashes that scattered in the wind. The battle was won, and Ravenswood was free from the grip of the vampire. However, the victory came at a heavy price. Mark's heart was heavy with the loss of Alice and the toll the battle had taken on their town. The once tranquil community had been scarred by the horrors they had faced, and it would take time for the wounds to heal. Days turned into weeks, and life in Ravenswood slowly began to return to a semblance of normalcy. The town's inhabitants were forever changed by the events that had transpired. The memory of that night would linger in their minds, a constant reminder of the fragility of peace and the strength of unity. But in the shadows, a lingering doubt remained. The darkness had been defeated, but whispers hinted at a possible return. Mark knew the battle might not be over, and he remained vigilant, ready to face whatever new evil might threaten his town. As the days passed, he continued his research, delving deeper into the mysteries of the supernatural. He was prepared for whatever may come, knowing that the fight against darkness was a never-ending struggle, one that required unwavering determination and the strength of a community united in the face of fear. The story had concluded for now, but the legacy of that fateful night would endure, forever etched in the annals of Ravenswood's history.